charged pre-2000, or December's whatever, 2018, it'd be a misdemeanor. And if they pled guilty, were sentenced, pled guilty before December 6, 2018, and they were coming back for their sentencing now, when it's a civil infraction, these cases represent that exact same scenario. And the Supreme Court said, because of the intention of the legislature to punish as a 5-year minimum with the discretion of the court, that is what shall be applied for the sentencing for those that were convicted of behavior that preceded it. It went by the punishment, okay? The punishment of, and applied, even though they were, convicted previously, they imposed the punishment of the existing current law, even though it did not have a retroactive application. And the way they resolved it was, when the legislature's acting in this regard, and I say the legislature acting because they signed into law Prop 1, right? They authorized it on 12/6. And they could have done something different. They could have attempted to amend it. They could have enacted another law if they wanted to that would have effectuated it. But they have to have a general savings clause. You can imagine, imagine the legislative concepts of amending a mandatory 10 to a mandatory 5 as being an intention for those people and that behavior to not hurt them as much. There's no other difference beyond that, right? So it comes clear that when someone comes up for sentencing, even though they were found guilty during the licensing scheme that mandated a 10-year sentencing, but when the actual sentence took place, of course the judge is going to give them 5 years because that's the legislative intention. That's what they said in these cases. I'm suggesting that this changes everything, right? If there's civil, I would even say, you know what the problem was with Prop 1? You lose your right to a jury trial because it's only a civil infraction, right? You have a right to a magistrate formal hearing. No. That's it. There's no more felony firearm with this stuff. There's no CPS.
No probation.
These are no probation. You know what I mean? That's what this law really says because it says it's legal. Yeah. And if they want to come up with another way to regulate and stuff like that and get, some other legislative, but nowhere in this new legislative act do they retain any interest in continuing penalties for any of the crimes. And the legislature had the chance to do that. And that's how they resolve it. When they made this change to make it a 5-year mandatory instead of 10-year, they said, the legislature could have said, we want to continue to punish the people that were convicted pre-crime, or pre-change in law. They didn't do that. And it's not an issue of retroactivity. It's the legislature's intentions in this area that they've occupied for this. And it really deals more with the sentencing. You know what I mean? And proportionality, the concept of proportionality.
Forfeiture too.
And Jeff says it applied to forfeiture. I didn't mean to go crazy about that, Tim, but your question is right on point because that's where the answer is.
Guys, we got to go to the
Tim's been trying to respond for a few. He's got to let it go. He's got to explode here.
Yeah, I'll hang around.
Okay. Oh, cliffhanger then.
All right, but I want to hear what your thoughts are on that.
No, it's a good show, man. Yeah. All right.
All right. Well,
hold on. What happened to Rick? Is Rick ready in the news?
He's still there.
He's waiting on you.
Does she do the news now?
Rick, you got news or what? Oh, now he's being silent.
Yeah, I got news. I got news.
See, he's got news.
Give us a silent treatment.
Yeah, Rick's.
He's getting.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Okay, go. Without further ado, here's Rick Thompson with the news, also known as Big Daddy.
We're doing this right now? Okay.
Right now.
Big Daddy review.
All right, I guess this is the cannabis news. It's Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2019. Plenty of green trees, and I'm Rick Thompson. State officials want to make it easier for medical marijuana patients to have access to the products they need. Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs announced the drafting of new admin rules for the MMMA, which will lower the registry card application fee by 33% and eliminate fees associated with processing, updating, and replacing marijuana registry identification cards. The proposed changes include reducing patient application fee from $60 every 2 years to $40, eliminate the $25 caregiver criminal background check processing fee, Eliminate the $10 fee to update the name or address on the registry card or to add a caregiver or request a replacement card. Increase the renewal period from patients from 60 to 90 days, and include email as a method by which staff from the MMMP will contact a patient, caregiver, or physician to verify information provided on an application. We always like to see things getting better for patients. Oh, the biggest medical marijuana company in Michigan plans to harvest almost 30,000 pounds of marijuana annually from their custom-built $13 million facility in Windsor Township. Now, Green Peak Industries now goes by the brand name Sky Mint. They've started growing plants in their 50,000 square foot state-of-the-art headquarters in an industrial park for marijuana-related businesses. They just had their first harvest, and in their harvest, they cut down 800 plants with 17 different strains. And in total, the facility has 22 flower rooms, each one holding up to 200 marijuana plants, sitting under grow lights for 12 hours a day, forcing those plants to flower and bud. Oh, and from October 2018 to February 4th, the first 4 months of sales tracked in the MMFLA program, a total of $30.2 million in medical marijuana was sold in Michigan, according to BMR. That's 4 months, people. Through the Senate Fiscal Agency projected the 3% excise tax could eventually garner $24 million. That revenue stream's going to fall a little short of that. The excise tax ends on March 6th due to a provision in the 2016 law that takes effect because marijuana was legalized for adult use in November. Yay, us. From December 15th, 2017 to present, businesses seeking medical marijuana licenses and those that have received licenses have paid the state $11.9 million, according to the Bureau of Marijuana Regulation. Oh, more than 250 local governments all throughout Michigan are opting to ban recreational sales of cannabis after the statewide legalization. An interactive map was created by MLive to show which localities are opting out of sales and which localities have bans pending. Josh Hovey, a spokesman for the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol, said in a phone interview with Watchdog.org that it's fine for communities to opt out of marijuana sales as long as that opt-out is based on the will of the voters. Let's talk about that supply chain. When Colorado's first recreational cannabis retailers opened their doors, the getting was good. Consumers were eager to get their hands on newly legal marijuana, and the existing licensed grows and dispensaries could charge whatever they wanted. And they had over $125 an ounce in 2015. But in the 4 years since, Colorado's marijuana prices have dropped like a stone, consumers paying just over $50 per ounce in 2018, according to the Coloradan newspaper. Same trend happening in Washington State. Now consumers can buy cannabis at less than $7 per gram, according to Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board, but industry members estimate it's actually closer to $1.50 a gram, a little over $40 per ounce. In California's product is massively overproduced, according to bridgemish.mi, and it's making it similarly cheap, approximately $60 an ounce. The state grows up to 15.5 million pounds for cannabis, but only sells 2.5 million, according to a 2017 report indicating the product is probably being sent out of state for consumption. Oh, goodness gracious. We're going to end the news with a quote. And I'm sure that when I say this quote, everybody will know exactly who the quote came from. It is, "I've never met a crackhead who didn't start with marijuana. Zero. Really? Every single one of them did." Don Bailey, who's actually on the board for the MMFLA licensing program, according to bridge.mi. That's it. That's the people we have running the show, folks. I'm Rick Thompson. It's February 14th, 2019. Cannabis News, PGT. See ya!
You rock.
All right.
Thank you, Rick. That was outstanding. And just for reminders, that news update was brought to you by the Big Daddy's Valentine Day special.
Yeah, that's right. I got a special Valentine for you. Come on, get it.
What?
You know, folks, I want to throw out a word of hope, if I could. Okay, this is a thought. I've expressed it a little bit. I think
this whole creation of the civil infraction thing, $100 fine, not hardly even more than a traffic ticket. I predict this is kneecapping law enforcement. It's a kneecapper, and except the only thing that they got to play with at this point, in my opinion, is of course the drugged driving. The rest of it, this is settled down. I mean, there is no motivation. Think about it for these people, to go after a simple, marijuana user in whatever way, shape, or form. I mean, of course, if they're committing other crimes or some bullshit like that, but this is a heavy-duty kneecapping for these people, and it's a real disincentive. That's just my thoughts. I'm a positive thinker, but that's
the intention. But it seems like it's
brilliantly written.
Taking a little time.
I know, Jamie. But I don't know. But it hasn't gone on very long though. I mean, this thing was only passed a month or two ago.
Tim,
Yeah.
Listen, I think there's some amazing things that have taken place. I agree with a lot. The judicial system has not been good, and whether they want to recognize it or not, it is a machine that eats it up, it chews on it, spits it out. I sat through a court in Ann Arbor today that I was describing that it was like nothing had changed. It was and nobody was saying anything. It was like, what is going on here? And like the judge was saying things like, in Ann Arbor, like if you're a medical marijuana patient, you have to have a letter in addition to your card from your primary care doctor. No, you don't. This is. So I'm just saying to you, and I wonder, out your way too, it's not any better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, you're closer to the front lines, Michael. You're closer to the front lines than me. I'm talking on a broad philosophical level. That ultimately, this is what I mean, it's going to take a little time to change people, but I think this is a really big deal.
100%.
This $100 civil infraction thing.
I agree. I was just saying the failure to take action here for the courts to treat it differently, to begin a process of which there's clarity on how in disposing of cases that are misdemeanors and just civil infractions. There's people getting sentenced all over the place, and nothing different. And you know what else? Like like it's kind of unjust that anyone's making any recommendations about any marijuana behavior until they have been retrained. You would think, you know what I mean? Like none of that has happened. You see what I'm saying? Like every single behavior is laws changed, but tell me a location, place, or something that there's been one specific articulated direction for law enforcement how to be, other than Kent Stecker says, if they have 2.5 ounces, it's a civil infraction. That's, and listen, I am not, I'm not disagreeing with the optimism of where we stand and how great things are. I mean, the best argument is, when they enacted the MMFLA, the concern was that the caregivers were going to be destroyed, right, from the MMMA. Now the caregivers are the heroes. They've been villainized for 10 years, and people are talking about trying to get them into the MMFLA, right? So that is win right now. Even no matter what happens, that's win.
Yeah.
Yeah. But these other things, the courts. I don't know. I know they're slow to move, but they were slow to move for the MMA. I mean, for the MMA, they did not treat any aspect of it differently. And I've had it. But I may be alone. But you should do if you get a chance, just from an activist standpoint. And it's always fun to go see some of the nonsense. Go sit in a criminal call, like in Berrien County. You know what I mean? Just see what's going on, or one of the kind. Seriously, just see see if there's a lot of marijuana cases. So I'm just curious. I don't know. I mean, I could I'm still amazed that they still exist.
Right. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Michael, if they have an attorney like you, I would say they're going to be in very good shape. Again, it's always the little guy, the little gal that gets shit on in the system. And I don't know. I'm lost for words. It's bad. I'm not denying that. I've been fighting this crap all my life, and I hear you. It's going to take a little time, but I'm just saying overall, what's been done is going to take a little time, but it's going to turn this whole thing around. I cannot even, in my wildest imagine, a cop spending a bunch of time on a fucking marijuana ticket for $100. Okay, I mean, some of them will if you're in Ottawa County or whatever the heck, but I mean, it's a real big disincentive.